Hi, everybody. You're back with Destiny. I'm with the 11th Street Bridge Park, and I am so excited to bring you Taste of the Harvest Homestyle. So, for those of you all who have joined us last week, thank you. For those of you all who are joining us today, thank you again. So, before we get started, I wanted to give a special thank you to the Kresge Foundation and Giant Food for supporting this event. Today, we're going to have our Food Makers Hustle panel, in which we'll be talking to some great food entrepreneurs from the area and learning more about their journey and their story. Today, I'm wearing green, and green is the color of growth and the color of money. So, we're going to get into it. So, I'm going to bring on our panelists now. Here is Tamara Cole. Say hey to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you through the World Wide Web and look forward to sharing some information.
Yes, she is CEO of Wilma's Batter. We have Xavier Brown. He is the CEO of Soilful City. And then we have Ivy Armstrong.
And hi, everyone.
CEO of Fight Juice. So we're so excited to have you guys here today. And before we even get started, honestly, in the comments, we want to know, these are some great Black-owned businesses. Tell us your favorite Black-owned business. Just go ahead and put that in the comments. And while you all are doing that, we can get started. So we're here today, like I told you guys, to really talk about your journey as entrepreneurs. Taste of the Harvest is all about food. Taste of the Harvest is all about celebrating food and how food brings us together. And food has become you all's lives as business owners, right? So food makers are those entrepreneurs who produce products, food products, and sell them. So just to get started, I wanted to know, tell us about your journey. Tell us about your business. Get us excited about the things that you do.
Well, I'm Tamara Cole, owner and founder of Wilma's Batter. We specialize in refrigerated pancake and waffle batter. But what makes us unique is we don't just make buttermilk batter. We make all types of flavors that include butter pecan, apples and cinnamon, lemon, chocolate. And if you're one of our future customers and you want to give us an idea, we'll make that too.
I'll go. As we said before, my name is Ivy. I'm CEO of Fight Juice. Our juice is blended, so it includes all of the vegetable fiber. It's not a cold pressed juice. A lot of times we hear about juices and they're generally cold pressed. So that's what makes our juice a little bit, that's what makes it a little bit different. I started out making it for myself, and now 3-ish years later, here we are.
Awesome. Last but not least.
Cool. Okay. My name's Xavier. I'm with Soulful City. I make a hot sauce called the Pippin sauce. It's named after an African-American painter named Horace Pippin. And it is kind of centered around preserving African-American agricultural legacy of Black people in this country, while also showing love to Black farmers in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Awesome. So I guess we can start with you, Xavier. You do something really cool with not that you all don't all do something cool, but you do something really cool in that you grow your own chili peppers. Is that right?
Yes, I grow some of the peppers, and as the process has developed, I've been able to reach out to other try to focus on black growers specifically to grow peppers for me as well, and I would purchase the peppers back from them at a pretty good price.
Okay. So, and this is going to extend to all of you all as well, but how did you get started even farming? I mean, if you think about it, you had a skill, right, which is growing the chili peppers, and now it's like a business. How many years have you been in business?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I've been doing the hot sauce thing for I guess 4 years, and it kind of developed on its own. It was never my initial plan to start making hot sauce, but being a part of the urban agricultural scene, the discussion of value added products, and that's just taking peppers and turning it into sauce, or taking an apple, turning it into juice or something like that, was always this discussion around how to figure out ways to further monetize urban agriculture, because the returns on the money with what you do is so low. And so over time, it's a long story that I won't take too much time. I was able to kind of build out that process into what it is now.
Okay, and I extend that. Thank you for sharing that. I extend that question to both you and you, Ivy and Tamara. Like, tell us how you got started. Like, what was that moment where it was like, you know what? I think I'm going to make juices. Or you know what? I think we're going to make batter. So let us know.
I actually had, I was, I don't like to say diagnosed, but I was pre-diabetic. So I was really trying to figure out how I could make changes in my diet, how I could really add veggies. Just like, I just need to eat, clearly need to eat more raw vegetables. So I started making the juice for myself, and I decided I would make it a business before I even had a name for it. So I had this idea, like, I think I want to do this juice thing. And for months, I was just sort of asking God to send me a name for this juice. And finally, excuse me, finally he did. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. And for me, it was a crazy journey. So I work full time. I work downtown for a local major business, and was fine with my job, going to work every day. But my stepfather woke up one morning, he couldn't walk. So we rushed him to the hospital, and he was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer, and there was a large mass pressed against his spinal cord. So I'm a Washingtonian, came from Ward 8. So in some circumstances, we don't have money to afford extensive health care, and chemo and radiation is extremely expensive. So my sister and I were trying to figure out a way to help with the medical bills. And I was just walking around the office, and I was just pondering, like, what could I do? And I was like, I'm gonna sell my grandmother's pancake and waffle batter. And in my office, they were like, what's so hot about your pancake batter? I was like, okay, let me bring it in and let me see what you think. So I used my job as a test market, and in a matter of weeks, I was selling to the entire office, and it's like over 2,000 employees in there. So immediately took something that I just love to do, and it instantly turned into a business, unexpected, and it's helped out with my parents as well.
Oh wow, that's super powerful. And what all of you all have said is either there was something that you were passionate about, or something that just kind of drove you because you felt like you had to, that really had you in the mindset of starting your business. So that's great. I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper. You guys, we talked a little bit about how you started, but tell us a little bit about like your journey. Was it easy all the time? Was it, a breeze? And we talked about, your longevity, how many years you all have been in the business, but kind of like paint a picture for us about what being a business owner in the food space means to you, and how has it helped to, I guess, inform the way that you think about food, because it's not just food to you guys anymore.
Yeah, for me, it was just a fun recipe that my family and I have enjoyed for years. But transitioning that into an actual business was tough. I'm in year 2, and year 2 is a little bit different. In the beginning, you're excited, you're signing up for everything. I came across Xavier at one of those events to just help out entrepreneurs, and you're amped and you're getting your product out there, but you realize very quickly you don't have a structured business. You got a product, you got people eating it and tasting it, but you don't have a business, and you just all over the place. And so when you finally come to grips with that, you have to nail yourself to a chair and start putting together a business plan, start understanding what your financial statements look like. And that's a headache, especially if you don't have a business background. And so for me, attaching myself to mentors and DC program, nonprofit organizations to help me was the best way for me to navigate through a world that I had never entered into until now.
I second that. It's really interesting that you mentioned the business structure. We talk about sort of inspiring people to start their own businesses who haven't necessarily studied business in college or otherwise, not having a business background. And I always feel like these spaces are really good. I love talking to other entrepreneurs, especially food entrepreneurs, because it gives me confidence to know that this is something I can figure out without having any real prior experience. Just being determined, and like Tamara said about just having mentors. I will say that when I decided to start making juice as a thing, I quickly realized this is a whole lot. This chopping a few vegetables for one juice is totally different than a 50-pound bag of beets, okay? Like, I was like, this is a mess. There's beet juice everywhere. Everything is red. My hands were raw. I was just like, okay, this is a completely different element. And I think you then have to dig into, is this business side of it worth it? How passionate am I about what I'm doing versus, just making juice for myself or something of the like. So.
Yeah, sure. And Xavier, if you have something to add.
No, I guess I have a few things to add. I echo what's been said before me. Yeah, I had to learn a lot of stuff on my own. I was growing a lot of the peppers myself, and it was every year, every season, it was a developing process, trying to figure it out. My biggest goal, to be honest with you, wasn't to make a sauce, but it was really to build out a network of Black farmers who work together, like a loosely knit cooperative, I guess. And so if you were a consumer or a customer and you wanted to know, like, hey, I want to make an apple pie, not apple pie, but let's say I want to make something to give a sauce, a fish pepper sauce. One Black farmer might not be able to grow all your peppers, but you might be able to find like 10 Black farmers in DC to grow all your peppers, and they can work collectively together to do that. And in addition to them working collectively to grow those peppers for you, you can also say, like, hey, like, some of my peppers come from the Ark, some of them might come from Dreaming Out Loud, some of them might come from Clay Terrace, some of them might come from Berry Farms or Lincoln Heights or Upper Marlboro or wherever, and you can add those Black farmer stories to the product. So that was like my biggest goal, just to demonstrate that was possible. And the pippin sauce just happened to be the end product of that experiment, and through that process, I had to learn what Tamara said about proper business structure, about, how much does it cost for me to make one bottle, what, I have to get a commercial kitchen. I have to take this certified food course. I could go on and on. I don't want to take up too much space, but it's a long, obviously it's a journey. And when you're stepping into a space where you kind of don't have anybody to ask questions, you have to kind of latch on to mentors wherever you can.
Yeah, and that's a good transition, Xavier, because one thing I was going to say was, you guys are in different spaces, right? Some people 2 years, some people 3 years, right? But, you talked about, lacking that knowledge and having to lean on people in order to, really help you get started. So can you all talk a little bit about like where you are now? So we talked a little bit before about like, some of you all work at a commercial kitchen. Some of you all, have had to have, certain certifications. So can you talk a little bit about how you even found out that was something that you needed to do? Some people, during COVID, they may be like working out of their kitchen, which is totally fine, or they may be doing, this and that, but you all have taken a different step or a step further and like started to work in these like organized spaces. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for me, I first reached out to the health department
Okay.
because I just wanted to join a farmer's market and sell my stuff.
Okay.
And they came back with like this massive email, was like, you need this, you need that, you need this, you need that. And I was like, what? Like, where do I get all that from? So the first thing was like finding a commercial kitchen. Oh, that's even the best part, because um scheduling hours in a commercial kitchen can be very pricey. So I was like, I can't afford the hours, the price range for the hours to use this kitchen. So I started digging and digging and digging, and finally came across a nonprofit organization called Crossroads Community Kitchen.
Okay.
Not only did they have a commercial kitchen for me to use, they actually have what's called an enterprise micro enterprise program that teaches you all the fundamentals of a food business. They take you to the health department, let you sit down and ask as many questions as possible, so you really know what you need to actually operate as a food business. The biggest emphasis that they taught me was, don't put yourself in a position to get shut down before you get started. So to me, having all the legal documentation, all the ServSafe certifications and things like that was important to me, because my product itself is extremely perishable. I didn't want to take that risk. So working with them, and like right now, I'm working with the Latino Economic Development Center, where I'm taking classes on structuring a formal business plan. So there are so many programs in this area that offer a reduced cost or free opportunities that have helped me along the way.
Okay, and just for the chat's purposes, can you give me those two organization names again so I can share with the people?
Sure. The first one is Crossroads Community Kitchen, which is located in Tacoma Park, Maryland. And the second one is the Latino Economic Development Center. And they are primarily located in DC, but they do have locations in Montgomery County as well.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wanted to add to that question? Or even bounce off of what Tamara had shared about like how you all got started in the spaces that you are currently in? Like physical spaces that you're currently in?
I can. So if you want to go, you can.
No, go ahead, Xavier.
But, sure. Yeah. So I make a hot sauce, and I just doing research and talking, like Googling and talking to as many people as possible. Well, one of the first things I did was, there was a woman named Kim Ryden, and she had a class course. I think she still has it, called Cure, like a Curate Connect, and well, that's the name of her company. But she had like a food entrepreneurs class, and through that class, I was able to meet a lot of other small business owners. And so I got hip to this commercial kitchen. I don't think it's around anymore. It's called Taste Lab. It was over in Northeast in Ward 5. And so I was able to get like a 3-month like small lease to make my sauce. It was me and one of my homeboys. We just testing out the sauce, playing around with recipes, because I had such a huge crop at that time. But I knew that I had to be in a commercial kitchen. So that was the first commercial kitchen that I was in, and I was on like the graveyard shift. And so after that, I was talking to people, Googling people, talking to people, emailing people. I realized that I had to take a certified food class. So I ended up taking a certified food class from, I think it was UC Berkeley, online, and then I took another one from the University of Maryland that was in person. So I did that, and you had to be, since hot sauce is a lower certified food, you have to know how to package it. And at that time, I was making pepper jelly, so you have to know how to package it so you won't have botulism. And botulism is a bacteria that's already on the plants, but have to know like the science behind it, so you won't basically kill anybody or start like a pandemic, what we're in right now, right?
Right.
So I had to learn that. Then I had to learn about like insurance. I had to kind of cover myself for insurance, food. Then I learned I had to get my food manager's license, and then somebody gave me a book. I wish I had. I'm not in the house. I would show the book, but a book about getting your product on the shelf, and it talked about like what your label has to look like and all this other type of stuff. Label. What it looks like. Then I had to figure out. Please stop me if I don't want to take up too much space. But that was like the process. It was like step by step, and And
Yeah.
I had to learn, like, where do I get bottles from? I don't know where to get empty bottles from, and I had to look up, figure out what those type of hot sauce bottles were called. They're called woozy bottles. And this is like over the span of like 2-3 years. So every growing season, because peppers are seasonal fruit, I was only really focusing on this like during the summertime. And so
Mm-hmm.
in between time, I was, I work full time. I have other kind of responsibilities, but that was like the process. And so it was a slow process. And every year I would come out with a batch of sauce, and it would be
Mm-hmm.
slightly different than the previous batch. Whether the label might be different,
Yep.
the material that the label is made out of might be different. The way I was selling the sauce might be different. So one year I might try all in-person farmers markets. One year I did all virtual. I sold all online because I realized, like, at farmers markets, I don't want to say this is the last thing I'm gonna say because I'm conscious of taking up too much space. At farmers markets you get a lot of foot traffic, but that doesn't mean people will pay. And then you're like, kind of, I don't want to say you're wasting your time standing there, but you could be making money doing something else. So on the
Mm-hmm.
virtual space, if people could just buy it online whenever they see fit, I could still be doing something else. And so, but obviously packaging and other things come with the virtual space. So every season I was like trying something new with how to like distribute the sauce, trying to figure out what makes the most sense for me with like what I'm doing. So I'm gonna just put a period and then I'm gonna pass it to Ivy. I'm sorry, I apologize for talking too much.
Don't apologize. We want you. That's why you're here. We want to hear from you. We want to hear about your journey. So please.
I actually started at Taste Lab as well,
Okay.
and I'm still there. But I chose that place because, as Tamara mentioned, she was looking for like a place where she could go that would help her figure out the other stuff. And I chose Taste Lab because their thing was helping other food entrepreneurs and kind of walking you through the process of, making sure that you have your legal documentation. I'm actually having to take my ServSafe again. That 3 years kind of flew by.
Wow.
I just looked at it. I'm like, oh man, I need to take this test again in January. So yeah, just all of those processes. I chose a place that would kind of help me because I don't have all the answers and I didn't know anyone who had the answers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big part of it. If you want to just kind of start something to kind of look for, it's not necessarily the easy route, but the route that could be helpful without you having to, pull your hair out. And I wanted to add to something Xavier said because I feel like this is a never-ending process when it comes to like your packaging, and it's not something that you figure out once. It's like I'm constantly having to revisit my labels. We started in plastic bottles, and then we moved to glass, which came with its own new set of like labeling and the caps and the type of material, the lining of the caps, all of these things.
Details. That's what I hear.
Yeah, all these things that contribute. So, it's like you do something once, you figure it out, you're like, okay, I got my label, I'm ready to go. And now a year later, it's like we're doing that. We've had to do that process, multiple times. There's kind of like this never-ending problem-solving space.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we're always in as, especially with food, because like you mentioned, it's like there are these things that we're having. And my product is also very perishable, where it's like a 7-day shelf life. So
wow.
Wholesale is like, really next to impossible at this stage in our business. But anyways, I think I went off on a tangent.
No, again,
No, but
it's important. Go ahead, Tamir.
yeah, but to Ivy's point, definitely with the packaging. For me, COVID hit me really hard. Our packaging was plastic bottles, but because of the fact that I'm bootstrapping the business and we're reinvesting all of our profits, the hand sanitizer company wiped me out as far as the plastic bottles. So I'm now in the process of looking into pouches just to navigate around the fact that I have a low stock in plastic bottles. So yeah, to her point, it's always a evolving situation when it comes to packaging, especially with the type of products that we sell.
I also we were talking about we're talking about like being business minded, right? Really having to figure stuff out. And I know Tamara, you mentioned that you work full time, right? I
Yeah.
wanted to know like how do you all balance that and being like full time business owners? Like,
So I nap. I nap. Like I don't sleep. I nap.
okay.
You have to like be meticulous with your time management. I think in year 2 and more so like where Xavier is, you learn how to filter what you give your time to, and you learn instantly you can't do it by yourself. You're going to have to get help. You're going to have to give some tasks and responsibilities that are functioning, that make your business function, to someone else. So for me, again, with COVID, it was a gift and a curse. Our business is solely done through online sales, so I can manage the delivery of our products around the time frame that I actually do work full time.
Mm-hmm.
But because of the demand, to Ivy's point, we went from making 20 bottles to almost 1,000 bottles a week. So I nap. That's how I get by. Caffeine and napping.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any tips for how you get by? I think that is how, you know, folks who don't run full-time businesses and have full-time jobs operate. So anybody else?
What about you, Xavier?
Yeah, for me, because what I do is very seasonal. I learned early on just from like farmer people that you want to take notes on everything, and so I just took notes on like how long it took me to make sauce, right? How long it took me to make like one batch of sauce, and so one batch of sauce for me is 5 pounds of peppers, and that'll give me like 36 bottles. So that's one batch. And then I figured out like every time I would make a batch, how I could become more efficient with that, you know, making that batch, but then like making like 5 batches or 10 batches, right? And figuring out like what that looked like. Oh man, my bad. I'm sorry. I'm in the car. But what that looked like, and like how that was actually possible. And so it was just like taking notes on everything, and so that once you kind of like have your flow with that, you can figure out, okay, I can maybe pass this on to like a big part of what I want to do is like hire like young guys that in my neighborhood or that work with me in the past. So now I have the recipe. They've gone to the kitchen with me. I could pass it on to them. And since we have the harvest of the peppers, it's like harvest of pepper seasons like August, September, and October. So it's like a big push to make as many bottles as we can, harvest as many peppers for like 3 months straight, and then after that, it's just selling peppers, you know. And so just kind of being strategic as possible. And so right now, I don't spend as much time in the kitchen. I just pass it on to one of my homeboys who's out of work during COVID and let him make all of it, and I pay him, you know. And so just trying to like do that. And so because I realized early on that if I didn't figure out a way to like, I didn't want making hot sauce to like dominate my life. Like it's fun, but you know I like to travel. I want to ride my bike. I want to party. You know I'm still young, so how could I make it so it has its place in my life, but it didn't become so much of a burden that I like hated going to the kitchen. You know what I'm saying? Like I have to go to the kitchen and make this sauce. Like I wanted to make it so it had its like place in my life where I knew it was going to be hard work, but if I'm strategic, then it could be hard work, but it's like it's structured and it's fun, and we're there for the 3 or 4 hours, and then we go back home or go to basketball court or go play video games or whatever, you know. So it was just it took me like 3 years to kind of figure that out and write everything down and like time it, so we knew like to be as efficient as possible.
No, really. I think that like a lot of times when you're doing some things that you're good at, right, it can go super quickly from like, oh man, this is great, I can make some money, to like, I think I may have made the wrong decision because this is so stressful. So like I'll turn that question back to you all, Ivy and Tamara, like, you know, how do you keep yourself going? Like being a business owner cannot be easy. Like I'm also working on like some personal business ventures, and I'm like, should I do this? Like, you know, what, how can I keep my passion going?
So I actually lost my job. When I started my business, I had a full-time job, and then I ended up losing my job, and I had to, say, where am I with this? Am I going to go full force with my business, Fight Juice, or am I going to think about going back to work full time for someone else? Or am I going to do both? And feasibly, can I go full force with my business and work full time? So, full disclosure, I don't have any children. And I was actually just about to close on a house when I did lose my job. So I decided that for me personally, I could go full force. I had already seen success in my business, and I said, you know what, a few years from now, I could really be rolling and doing well for myself. So I'll keep going.
Yeah.
So I really don't. The answer to your question is I don't have a choice because I'm now fully invested in Fight Juice. And it's doing well and it's growing, especially in a COVID year. So what keeps me going is I'm not going back to work for anyone else, and I need to make a living for myself, like right now.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm just amazed at Ivy. Like, she just blows me away when she talks. But for me, I'm going to be very raw and uncovered. So I became a mom at 17. I chose careers that were able to pay the bills, and put food on the table. It was the jobs that I've done in the past, and even my job now. Like, I really enjoy it. I learned the environment that I work in, but it doesn't drive the same type of passion that I get from creating new, different flavors and seeing people's reactions when they eat my food. And in this journey, I've been lucky enough to team up with other chefs and other entrepreneurs who, even though you're surrounded by so many, you can always feel like you're by yourself, or your entrepreneurial experience is unique to you. So building those relationships helps me get through them. It helps me when I want to cry and just shut down. And honestly, like with the three of us, we're all consumer packaged goods products. And like with Xavier being in the store, my hat goes off to him, because this industry can get really expensive. You're trying to compete with major brands, and it's discouraging. But because we want to see representation like that looks like us in those stores and supply foods to our communities, it's what pushes me each day. I want to be like Ivy, and eventually one day do this on a full-time basis. But that's also the motivation that I can truly walk away and be with my business on a full-time basis.
I'm trying to be like you, Tamara. That's what I should have said. I almost forgot. I'm making juice for the kids and for our people.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Destiny.
Oh, you are on mute, Destiny. But yeah, I'm like out here making juice for our people, and then when I'm asked the question, I'm like, oh, I don't have any choice. I'm all in. So
no, that's the way you gotta be, I think, sometimes, because like when I meet other entrepreneurs, I'm like, yeah, I quit my job, I'm doing this. It's a win-lose situation here, and I'm like, yeah, but yeah, I can still gotta pay the electric bill. And that's how, and like I'm squeamish, and like other entrepreneurs, like I have one chef that I rock real tough with, and she's been in the game for 15 plus years, and she'll hustle, but her food is her passion, and she's relentless. She's not gonna quit. She's getting it done. And so that's why I said I want to be like Ivy, because I'm squeamish. Like, I am one of those individuals that toddles with that corporate stability, and I'm a lot older than people on this panel. So I'm 41. You know, I'm thinking about 20 years. How am I going to retire?
You
so
good, Tamara.
Oh, thanks. So it's a struggle. It's a struggle, but yeah. So my advice to anyone that's trying to do this: start now. If you're fresh out of high school, like I know we push for college and other aspects to better our lives, but there's nothing bad about entrepreneurship. And like if I could, turn back the hands of time, I would have gave it a shot 20 years ago.
Wow. And if that inspired nobody else, it definitely inspired me. Like I said, you know how people have been saying, like, yeah, during COVID, if you're not starting your business, you're not doing anything. I don't necessarily believe that because I'm doing a lot. But I think there's something about like hearing the stories of people who have done it or who are doing it that really just like, it makes it more personal, like, okay, they can do it. Even though they've been doing it longer, they had to start one day. So thank you guys for sharing that. Xavier, can you hear us?
Oh,
no, he can't hear us. Okay. We're going to keep going. And
I can't hear you.
Okay. Check the chat and I can give you some instructions on how you can log back on. Okay. Well, he can't hear me. Duh. Okay. So thank you guys for sharing all of that. So we have like a few minutes left. Let's see, what are we at? We're a little bit over the 30-minute mark. So you guys gave a little bit of advice for folks who will want to get started. That's great. Thank you for that. And we talked a bit about your challenges. So let's talk about like where you are now. So you guys we talked about like where you operate from, but like tell us about some of your products. Tell us like your favorite thing that you sell, because people are not only here to hear about like your sales, but also like the things that you sell, get people excited about those things. So tell us a little bit about, what you guys are selling and where people can find that, those products.
Okay, so I have an e-commerce business, so all of my sales are driven online. As I mentioned, we produce our products out of a commercial kitchen, and our batter is pre-mixed, frozen. So there's no mixing, there's no grabbing faucet water and pouring it in a bowl. All of our ingredients are made fresh with all natural ingredients, no artificial flavoring. And as I said, if you think it, we make it. We have over 20 flavors so far. Our goal is to be, for better lack of term, the Baskin Robbins of pancake and waffle batter. And trust me when I tell you, our nickname is we make crack in a bottle. It is delicious. And anyone that has tried it loves it. Our website is sincerelywilma.com. That's where you can place your order. And we're also on Instagram, Wilma's batter. Wilma's_batter, and as well as on Facebook. Not so much on Twitter. Too old to really understand how Twitter works.
Okay. Tell us about, before we get to Ivy and Xavier, tell us about like your favorite flavors. Like really, if I had never heard of Sincerely Wilma before, like really sell this to me. Like really, really like tell me what's your favorite. What should I try? Like what should I order?
Well, the first is always our buttermilk batter. That is the signature batter. That is my grandmother's recipe. The reason why I love that batter so much is because that's what I grew up with. Growing up in the early 80s, fast food wasn't our thing. So she cooked breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the best part about our batter is you can make pancakes or waffles. You don't have to add oil or do something crazy to get a different reaction to the batter. You get one or the other. So I would definitely say try the buttermilk. But if you want to get fancy, my next favorite one is our carrot cake. It mimics a carrot cake. And for those that enjoy dessert in the morning, it's perfect. We pride ourselves on being so good that syrup is optional. So you definitely don't need a ton of toppings, a pound of butter to enjoy breakfast. You can eat them straight off the griddle with no syrup, and you don't need anything to drink. You won't choke on them. They'll
Okay.
melt right in your mouth. Trust me.
Okay. Thank you. That was like fantastic. And just again for the chat, can you let us know what your social media handles are and your website name?
Yes. So my website is sincerelywilma.com, and my social media handle is Wilmas, WILMAS_batter. And I can also be found on Facebook under Wilma's Batter.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Xavier, can you hear us? You with us?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I can hear you all.
No, all good. So what we're talking about right now is, sell us your product. Tell us what your favorite is. Tell us where they can find your product. Tell us, just sell it to me. Like if I've never heard of Soulful City, just tell me how I can purchase from you guys. Are y'all on social
Sure. So
media?
Soulful
Stuff.
is an organization. Sure. So Soulful is an organization that does urban agriculture and food sovereignty work in Washington, D.C. Soulful is also a part of the Black Dirt Farm Collective, which is a Black farmers collective based in the Mid-Atlantic. The Pippin Sauce is about kind of holding high the stories of Black farmers and Black agricultural and creative kind of knowledge and wisdom. It's named after an African-American painter named Horace Pippin, who fought in
Yep.
World War I, and he taught himself how to paint. He was
Mm-hmm.
also a gardener, and so the seeds that these chili pepper seeds are heirloom chili pepper seeds, and the only way you can get them is if you buy them from a farmer. And so the goal of Pippin Sauce is really to hold those stories and those legacies high and really represent them to the utmost degree. You can find Pippin Sauce in Whole Foods. It's in every Whole Foods in the city right now. I think hopefully later on this season we'll get back to doing online orders, but not right now. So right now, Whole Foods is unless you get it directly from me, you can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. But the label tells the story of tells my story, has a lot of symbolism on it that represents African American culture, represents DC. It was I tried to make the label like a love letter, like my love letter to the city, right, and to my story. It's just being a Black male growing up in the United States. So Soulful represents that. It represents more than, or Pippin Sauce represents that, and it represents more than me because, like I said, there's many people that grow the peppers, and so I'm trying to hold their story up high. So I'm just a representative of the many hands that went into the soil, that planted the seeds, that helped to make the sauce. I'm just here representing all of them, and so it's really a passion project and a project that I pour a lot of love into, and other people pour a lot of love into as well.
Thank
That's all
you.
I got.
No, it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Where can people follow you on social media? Where can they? I know you said Whole Foods, but you said hit you up on Facebook. Like where can they hit you up?
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely get it at Whole Foods. You can get it at oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of this store. You can get it at Whole Foods. You can get it at Glenn's Garden Market. You can get it at there's a spot. I can't remember all the stores, but it's a couple. I tried to do every ward or at least every quadrant in the city. I started in Ward 8 and tried to, or in Southeast, and tried to work my way around. But you can follow me on Instagram. That's SOILFUL, Soilful, and the same thing on Facebook and on Twitter. But I'm not too active on Twitter. But I always have a lot of cool things popping off and going on.
Okay. Thank you. And again, like I said, thank you for selling your product. Ivy, take it away.
That's so cool, man. You're in all those Whole Foods. Before I say, that's like the number one question I get. People are like, when's your juice going to be in Whole Foods? I'm like, do you have any idea what goes into putting a wholesale product into a grocery store? Anyways, we actually sell Fight Juice right now. During COVID, we're down to just 2 markets. We actually start another market. Two of them are in Virginia. One is the Arlington Fresh Farm Market. We'll be starting at the Old Town Market in Alexandria, and we are at DuPont Circle as well. I sell online at fightjuice.org. We do offer free delivery in the city. I'm really looking for, I'd like to do a Ward 8 or Ward 7 market come next year. That's really, I wouldn't call it a goal, but it's something that's important to us. And frankly, I'm really working on putting myself in more places throughout the city. It can be difficult though, especially, depending on I've had people love the juice. I've had people like spit it out in front of me. That's a thing, where it's like, oh, that's too healthy for me. It's not sweet enough. And I'm like off to the side eating, a Wilma's pancake, like telling people to drink juice. But yeah, so we're at 2 farmers markets, and we sell online. I just think that's so cool that Pippin sauce is in Whole Foods. I just envy the shelf life that you have to work with doing a hot sauce. But did I answer the question, Destiny? My bad.
No, absolutely. You did.
Okay.
One more. All good. And one thing you did mention too was like wanted to get involved with more like Ward 8 markets. So as you all know, and as our audience will know if they don't, we in regular circumstances, non-COVID, we do actually have a market at the Art with our farm. So again, Taste of the Harvest is a celebration of all of our farms, the harvest of all of our farms. And we have 6 different farms across Ward 6 and Ward 8. And actually, we're in our fall CSA right now. We usually do like a market, but because of COVID, we weren't able to. But I mean, honestly, I guess a question to pose to you, and then we're have a few questions from the audience that I do want to get to. But a question to pose to you all is, how do you all find those opportunities to, get into markets or like into stores or like, I know it's kind of a loaded question, but like just share more. Cause I mean, like there are resources, like I said, some people may not know about the farmers market that we have. All 3 of these food makers or food hustlers were in our last year's Taste of the Harvest. And they were sampling and selling their food or in their products. And it was really cool to see them all, together in that kind of like market-esque space. So how have you all navigated that and trying to figure out opportunities to promote your products?
I'll let one of you guys start.
There you go.
Well, for me, online sales, I've been really, really focused on that. Again, with Crossroads Community Kitchen, they actually gave me a scholarship to take a class called Retail Ready. And it teaches you about how to present your product to wholesale buyers, and the way you think you should go about doing it, like walking in the store and saying, hey, I got a product here, when on the shelf is like the complete opposite of what you're supposed to do. But to Ivy's point, again, about packaging, I've stayed online because I am bootstrapping to get my product retail ready, which means having my product to be able to sit on the shelf without me having to tell a consumer what it is, how to use it, and so on and so forth. And because my product is perishable, it goes from frozen to refrigerated to cooking it on a skillet. All that has to be put on a label. So until I get what is quote unquote retail ready, I'm not putting my stuff on shelves. I'm sticking with online sales where I can control the private label and I can control the communication with my customer until I'm able to raise enough money to not only get the packaging retail ready, but build a big enough stockpile so that if the store wants X amount of product or X amount of pallets, I can do it without wiping out my entire stock.
Thank you. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I do want to get to some of the questions from the audience or the viewers. A question that's more of an aspirational question. Where do you guys see your business going in the next few years?
I would really like to open a storefront. Even aside from the COVID crisis, I'd really like to open a storefront. And we're actually kind of outgrowing our commercial kitchen. So whether or not we do open a storefront in the next year or two, moving into a larger space is really the next step for us, so that we can. We're definitely experiencing some growing pains, where we're in a space where there are other larger businesses who take up more space. So it's like we need more walk-in refrigerator space, more walk-in freezer space. Storage is a thing, and this is something that, just to go back a little bit, when you talk about being retail ready, if like Whole Foods calls and says you need to be able to produce 5,000 of your product each week, do you have the space and the capacity to be able to do that? I think that's something that a lot of times we don't think about, and that's something I did. I started talking to people about doing wholesale, and then when I ran the numbers, kind of realized that we're not large enough to do wholesale and make money right now. So when you're talking, when I go to a farmer's market and sell juice for $9, it's $9 each, and I'm making X amount of money on that bottle. If the bottle itself costs me $5, then I can't sell it, wholesale for $5. That's a zero. Yeah, I'm just sort of running around, not churning a profit. So I think sometimes being retail ready is really a much longer planning process than people think about. But yes, a few years we should have a storefront or our own space where we're able to. It's so funny. I think as food people, we could talk about packaging for like hours and hours. Just the idea that you want to be able to, when we switch from plastic to glass, the weight became an issue. Okay, now I need to hire someone to lug all of this juice from point A to point B, or bring the bottles, or where do I store the bottles? All of those things. So in the next few years, I'd really like to be able to increase our volume and our footprint across the city.
And may I ask, how big is your team? Is it just you? Is it you and like somebody else, or?
I had a woman with me who makes the juice. So our juice making staff is now 2, 3, if you include myself. And our farmers market staff just grew to 3 or 4, including myself. But I have to tell you, her name is Zoila, and she is. And I tell you, like, she is wonderful. This woman, like, I pray for her. I'm like, Zoila, we cannot get sick. We need to be healthy, because she really is. Was it you, Tamara, who said like you can't do it by yourself? So finding people is really important. And when you're an entrepreneur, you tend to be your whole business.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think we're at like 5 or 6 people now.
Oh, wow.
Which is nice. And finding good people, it's great having good people. That's something I pray for.
No, congrats on that. And if anybody else wanted to jump in, like I said, we have just a few more minutes, maybe in 30 seconds or so. Like, tell us, like, where do you see your business in the next few years?
I mean, for me, I hopefully I would be able to pass off like the whole hot sauce operation to some young folks in DC, and it's turned into like a youth entrepreneurship training program. If I'm able to like secure a couple of accounts, then there's always streams of income coming to pay the youth. So that's why I would see it. And I would love to be able to like walk away from making the hot sauce, but it's still able to kind of outlive me. That's kind of like what I'm trying to set up now. That's fingers crossed. So, and also I just wanted to touch. Ivy mentioned Whole Foods. So the whole, at least from my experience working with Whole Foods, is only for like 2 or 3 months. Each store operates independently. So you might have the Whole Foods that's off of that's over there by Howard. They may only order like 10 bottles or 10 cases of whatever you're selling, right? And so you don't have to like think that you're going to order 5,000, and the M Street another store might order like 5, or another store might order 3, and so you don't have to feel that pressure of like, oh shit, I gotta make a million bottles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only way that I've been able to kind of keep up with the ordering process. Everybody orders independently, and nobody's order is like pretty huge. But my product is different from yours. You know, I make hot sauce, and so that's, you know, people buy hot sauce every now and then. You're selling juices, people run through juices very fast, so they'll be reing up on orders, you know, at a more rapid rate than they would at hot sauce. But I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank
Also,
you.
the woman Mary, she's starting Market 7, or she's building out Market 7 on Benning Road. She's a good person to chat with as well, and she has connections to Whole Foods, and she's doing a lot around Black entrepreneurs, and she's building out that whole food hall on Benning Road. So she will be if you haven't talked to her already, I can connect you. She will be an amazing person to talk to. My bad for going over the 30 seconds. I apologize.
Okay. Still got about 4 minutes left. Go ahead, Tamara.
For me, I want to ultimately, I got like a 10-year plan. It's to align myself possibly with a major brand, and take over the pancake and waffle game, shut down all of these dry, disgusting breakfast spots, and have them use my batter instead. But if that doesn't work, I will still want to. We want to build a packing facility and employ people in our community, and service jobs and training programs, to what Xavier's saying, and similar. And again, because, retirement is only approaching 20 years from now for me. If that fails, my husband and we just going to open up a cafe and serve our pancakes and waffle with a hot cup of coffee. That's pretty much the plan for the next 10 years.
That's not a bad plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, to wrap up with you guys, this has been such a great panel. Thank you all so much for being a part of it. If you were to tell somebody like me who is on the fence about starting their business, again, 20, 30 seconds, maybe 15, let us know, like, what is some advice, like a takeaway, inspire me to start my business.
I would say don't be scared. Do it at your own pace. Figure out what makes you smile, whether it's a product you make or it's a service you provide.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't feel like work, that's money. That's what you're made to do. And just profit from it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any inspiring words?
I would say just go for it. I would say just go for it. It's so interesting talking about children. I actually don't enjoy making juice. Like I mentioned, I don't like chopping vegetables, and it's not fun. It's not fun for me. So I think that the passion part of it has to really shine. You have to hone in and decide, okay, is this, because I've had to have that conversation with myself when I'm at a farmer's market. My back hurts a little bit. I'm like carrying these big, it kind of can be grueling. I mentioned just the weight of the glass alone. And I'm like, I'm looking at bakers, and I'm like, why didn't I become a baker? Bread is so light. These people are just like pushing their bread carts. I'm like, what? I don't know about this juice thing. But that really is the point, is to just help people eat raw servings of veggies. And eventually I want it to be a global thing where we're able to help sort of mitigate hunger just by being able to serve someone nourishment in a juice, no matter where they are. It could be like third world country and we just send them juice, and that's a thing. And I want it to be locally sourced from farms that come from those regions. So that's my passion, but I actually can't stand the process of doing it myself. But I want to pay people well to do that, do that type of work. I have a passion for being a good employer. That's just something I figured out. Like, I like treating people well who work for me. So
important. Yeah, thank you. Xavier, do you have any inspirational words for those who want to start their business?
For sure. Hopefully they find inspiration in the words. I don't know if they're inspirational, but I would say first maybe like do some planning and research on whatever your business is. Like if you're making sweet potato pies and nobody really likes your pies, and don't start the business. But if you're getting good response from your pies, you might be able to rock and roll with it. So I would take your time and be patient. I would maybe define your own define what success looks like to you. You know what I'm saying? For some people, success might be like making $1 million or selling 1,000 pies. For other people, success might be just like getting their pie to market. That might be success, even if they lose money. That's another thing. I would search out like mentors and things of that nature. So talk to a lot of people, and just be patient with yourself and not overdo it with yourself, because it's more so it's a journey, right? And so it's a journey that I think will tell you a lot about yourself. You'll learn a lot about your community, but I think through that process you'll be you'll be able to hopefully become a better person. I mean, I don't know. I guess I have like a philosophical viewpoint about it, but yeah, that's what I would say. Just kind of like just take your time, and don't just jump out there, because everything costs money, and you don't want to just jump out there without kind of taking your time to figure out how much bottles cost, how much commercial kitchen costs, how much this license costs, how much that costs. It is cost, so other than that, go for it.
Thank you. And thank you all so much for being a part of this panel. Hopefully you all were inspired, you all being the audience, were inspired by the words and journey and story of our food hustlers, because they've been hustling, you guys. They've been really hustling. Thank you all again for tuning in. Taste of the Harvest Homestyle. We'll be back next week. Same place, same time, 6:30. We're going to be doing some pumpkin painting because 'tis the season for fall. More information is going to come out about that. And another thing that you all can look forward to, I want you guys to tune in to hear more about our giveaways. Yes, I said giveaways. So tune into our social media at DC Bridge Park. Again, special thank you to Giant Food and the Kresge Foundation. And I hope you guys have a fantastic night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.